Alrighty, we got an A-League match here between Schadd and hakha3. I don't know what Katir is doing. I'm not gonna ask. This kingdom looks, I think, pretty straightforward. We got torture for a village, not a village, opposite of village. Torture for draw, squire for a village. You got rat catcher for thinning as well as replace. Also goat actually is probably the best thinner in this kingdom. Neither of them has their starting hand, so it's in their turn 2 hand. Plus buy from squire or loot or buried treasure. Pixie does a little bit of all of that. I guess loot is worse here than usual because of wolf den. That doesn't necessarily stop you from playing with it, but maybe you gain them in more moderation and then try to replace them in the end to avoid the negative 3 points. Okay, like the loots, there's 30 loots, 15 of each type of loot. And so if you're lucky, you pull like 2 of the same loot, like 2 hammers or 2 swords or something, and then you don't have wolfden points. But in all likelihood, almost every loot you're gaining is going to be worth negative 3 points. So how does one open here? I mean, Fountain does make something of a case for Miser. You set aside the coppers and then you get the 10 victory or 15 victory points from Fountain. The problem with Miser is just that it's terrible. And so are you willing to just be way behind the whole game? I feel like probably not. Goat's just going to be super fast thinning. You don't have time to fiddle on Miser, I don't think. Like the one thing that maybe makes a case for Miser is a lot of good 2s. And one of the big downsides of Miser is like you open it and you start setting aside coppers. You're probably hitting like 2 or on a 3 or like max on a bunch of those turns because you got a do nothing terminal copper thinner in your hand. And if you can buy a squire or a pixie or something, maybe those turns a little bit less bad. But I don't think Miser is the move. Interestingly, Schadd goes with replaces the first 5. Does that seem right? I would think Torturer probably is my gut instinct. Now, you want to thin, but Pickaxe, while I think being a pretty good card, is not a great thinner. And Replace is good at thinning, but would look a lot nicer if I had a bunch of 4s that I wanted to gain, but the 4s here are kind of mediocre. Torture is basically a thinner, if you think about it, because there's goat in the kingdom and it's already in your deck. So if you just draw through your deck more often and see the goat more times, then you're thinning your deck. So I would think Torture is the move. Replace is good if you see it turn 3 because you can top deck a card for turn 4, but Torture is also good if you see it turn 3 because you trigger a shuffle. Anyways, what did the person who didn't have 5-2 do? Pixie Rat Catcher. Yeah, not the most inspiring opening, but like there's a dearth of alternatives, so it seems reasonable. Ratcatcher is a decent kind of quasi-torturer counter because the curses go to your hand, so you can just call Ratcatcher immediately and trash them. Whereas with Witch or something, even with a Ratcatcher, you gotta hope to find the curse in your starting hand, and then it's at least costing you 1 draw at a bare minimum. I don't think the replace opening is terrible. I would assume the person who had the 5-2 and found the replace turn 3 should still be comfortably ahead here. What do you top deck? Do the Miser. Do it. I don't think Miser's correct, but that'd be the more fun line. I would sure take Shadd's position. Oh, let's go back and look. That's a good point. In order to buy the replace, Schadd had to not trash with the goat turn 2. Is replace worth that? It's a valid point. I mean, I think I would easily play the goat without trashing a copper to get a torture. I'm still not so sold on the replace. Maybe the replace is bad enough to not justify trashing the copper, perhaps. I think I would still take like if torture was like not allowed turn 2, I think I'd still take the replace there, and not trash the copper rather than buy a 2 and trash a copper. You could, if you replace Squire, you could get a free Torturer, or even a second replace, or even a Taxman. You could gain a Taxman by doing that. You could gain 2 Taxmen, in fact, because the replace would gain 1 from trashing the Squire, and then you would gain 1 from Squire's effect, because Taxman is an attack card. The trouble is, Squire is your village, and so, you know, oh, we're doing it anyway. All right. Hakha must not have noticed the Taxman, I presume. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have gained 2 of them. Will-O-Wisp seems like it would be a phenomenal boon here. So, just reveal Swamp's Gift. I think is the play for Pixie. Schadd has 5. I would assume this is a Torturer. Seems pretty clear to me. So I guess the thing we were contemplating wasn't what to buy. It was whether to take a free silver or not. And Schadd decided that he wanted a free silver after all. Which seems probably right to me. It's a good target for replace as well as a pickaxe if you get one of those. Yeah, take that. Not that. No. I don't think Field's Gift is worth it. You already got 5. Pop in it. Like you could buy the pixie right back. So like you could trash this if you just wanted to lower the pixie pile for some reason. Curses coming in hot. I'm surprised. I guess not that surprised. I'm a little surprised by the discard there. By Schadd. I would have thought you just eat both curses and then trash them. Also, why discard? Does Schadd already? That's the first curse. Why discard curse copper rather than double copper? Like you know for sure you got at least 1 trasher in your hand with goat, so keep the curse around and kill it. Third Torturer, says Steph. What else would we get? Definitely not a second replace. Yeah, third Torturer it is. Oh, that is an absolutely tragic hand right there. So you're looking at all your torturers, but no villages, which means, first of all, you've dudded. This turn's going to do nothing for you. But like that's worse than just a dud, because you know all of your torturers are in this hand. So these next 14 cards have 0 torturers in them. So not only is this hand a dud, like you'll draw 3 of these off of the torture, and then you have at least 1 full dud turn after that, and then another dud coming up, and then meanwhile you're just getting hit by torture attacks over and over. Game 1 goes to Hakha. So the replace opening did not work out after all. Game 2, what have we here? Lots of 4s, so my first intuition is Groom is going to be really good. Also Academy, so Groom is going to be really good. That's weird how that card tends to do a lot of good things. So, draw, there's Journeyman, Advisor, Avanto, Broker could be draw. You could gain high cost actions with Lurker and then broker them. I don't think that's the most efficient way to draw things, but you could draw it the way if you wanted to. You got Remake for Thinning, as well as Sauna can trash with silvers. Plus buy. Where is the plus buy? Broker cannot give plus buy. There's no plus buy. What a downer. So there's no way to gain 2 provinces in a turn. Is that right? That seems correct. Not to say you don't build here. There's still plenty you can do. It's pretty easy to gain duchies here. You could gain 4s off of Groom and then remake them into 5. Seems like the easiest way to get duchies. So you can build a deck that buys a province per turn and then scores with a bunch of duchies, and that would be sufficient. Academy can be like infinite villages with all the actions Groom gains. So what are they doing? Interestingly, Hakha opens with Academy turn 1. Is that the right call? I mean, Academy does seem super crucial here in that you just buy that and then you're set for life for villages. So turn 1 Academy seems pretty reasonable. That being said, it does violate the intuition of why are you opening with a village? You don't even have any terminals in your deck yet. Like, surely you could buy a nice Journeyman or Groom or something and then get Academy next time you hit 5. I think I like the Academy. The main thing that I'm thinking about now is like the reason you would sequence the other way is like, oh, I hit 5. Let me put a powerful 5 in the kingdom now to let me hit 5 again. Whereas Academy is not helping you hit price points. But it occurs to me that the main card you want here, I think, early on is not the 5s. I mean, Journeyman's good and all. But the most important card here, I think, is Groom. And so if you buy Academy turn 1, you still have a pretty good shot of hitting 4 on either turn 2 or turn 3. And then you can get Groom and be off to the races. Schadd opens Silver Groom, which seems like the natural opening for someone who does not have 5-2. Now where are we? Hakha has how many lurkers? 1 lurker? Oh, I see. I saw Hakha gaining a bunch of lurkers. The numbers weren't adding up. But that's because Hakha trashed a lurker to gain a Journeyman and then gained it right back. I'm surprised. I mean, I'm not that surprised. I'm a little surprised by the broker being the first 4. I mean, trashing estates for benefit is generally pretty good open, but Groom is also generally pretty good open. The couriers are kind of nice with Groom in particular because you can put something in your discard pile mid-turn and then play it immediately with Courier. Like if you had a hand of Groom, Courier, or nothing else, you could draw on by playing the Groom. You could gain a Broker and broker something for draw, but if you gain anything, or any action at least, you could Courier, play the Horse for immediate draw. 10 remakes in the supply. I'm not as surprised by the 10 remakes in the supply. I mean, surely you want remake here. I think that's a given. But this also feels like a kingdom where I'm more focused on just like play a bunch of Grooms, and then I'll add the remake when I can find a time to play it. For Schadd, I guess you could also consider saunas as a less terminal intensive and stop cardy way to thin. They don't trash as fast, but you already got a silver. Sauna would not be ridiculous. Gain a sauna, maybe Groom for silvers once, and then those coppers will be gone in an instant. And then like 3 silvers and some couriers is going to be 8 money, and you never need more than 8 money in this kingdom. Also worth noting, this seems like a very pile-y kingdom. Like there's Lurker, which just has a tendency to eliminate piles. Because like you gain, let's say 2 or 4 lurkers with the intention of gaining 2 actions per turn. But then when it comes time to pile, you can just play all 4 of those lurkers to say trash 4 journeymen all at once and not gain any of them. And so like, each lurker can reduce a 5-cost pile by 1 non-terminally. And then on top of that, there's Groom, which has a tendency to what's sort of looking for auto-pile itself. Like you have enough draw to get it into your deck. You play a Groom, you gain a Groom. It comes with a horse, which lets you draw the Groom and the horse, which lets you draw a Groom and a horse, which lets you draw a Groom and a horse. The main constraint in auto-piling the Grooms is usually it's very terminal intensive because you have to play all those Grooms and they're all terminal. But with Academy, the Grooms are actually all villages. So you get to into your deck once. You can just put all the Grooms in your deck. As Schadd appears to be doing. And like, why would you not take all the Grooms when you could? And like this seems to me to be the case for not adding an early remake. Remake is just a turn where you're not playing a bunch of Grooms. This is Shadd's last turn, right? Oh, as in, do they have a win here? I haven't even looked. Maybe? How many lurkers does Schadd have? Some non-zero number, right? 6 lurkers have been gained. Maybe Schadd does not have a lurker. Schadd does not have a lurker. Schadd gained 1 but then trashed it. So this Groom can be emptied basically for free for the reasons stated above. How else are you emptying piles? I'm not seeing how you do 3 journeymen and 6 lurkers, I don't think. Well, actually, let's see. How many Grooms does he have unplayed? You Groom 3 lurkers, you play the 3 lurkers, you trash 3 journeymen. That would be all well and good. Maybe there's a pile out here. The draw. Well, this doesn't look like it. Courier leads to buying a province, presumably, so that you don't trivially lose. Hakha's only got 2 Grooms. I don't think Hakha's starting to do the same thing here. Well, Hakha does have hella lurkers, right? 4, maybe. Yeah, let's see what Hakha's deck can do. 4 lurkers, 2 Grooms. You gain 2 lurkers off of your Grooms. Now there's 4 lurkers. You got 6 lurkers in your deck. You lurk 3 journeymen. You lurk 3 lurkers. That's not going to be enough to let you score, though, is it? Did Schadd just open up a tie, perhaps? I don't know how much money is Hakha's deck, but it looked to me a second ago that Hakha was probably like 1 gain short. If you Groom for 2 lurkers and you trash 3 journeymen and 3 lurkers, you have a lurker left to gain and then points left to score. Well, let's see. Where's the gains coming from? Hakha, I believe, has... Oh, let's see. They have 4 lurkers. All right, so you Groom 2 lurkers. There's 4 lurkers left. Now you have 6 lurkers. You trash 2 journeymen, 4 lurkers. Now piles are empty, and then you buy a province. How do you eke out an extra gain? Is there something you can do with gaining a remake here that I'm not seeing? Gain a remake, trash a courier and a broker into 2 journeymen, and then Groom an estate. Oh, woodworkers. Oh no, he doesn't have favors. um, yeah, maybe there's a win here. Can you afford to broker a non-zero card and gain favors for Woodworkers Guild? Let's see, where was I? Doesn't look like anything has occurred. What's in the discard? I presume just coppers? Let's find out. Discards 2 coppers. Discards 2 coppers. So 4 coppers in the discard. So kind of cutting it close on draw. If you want to buy a province, you need to have all the coppers and play a courier. Otherwise, you could broker the courier. So, option B, you could broker a horse? I mean, it sure makes sense to think about it here as hakha. Yeah, because I wouldn't plan on getting another turn unless schadd just had some. It'd be hard to imagine what could be in Shadd's hand that would cause him to dud that badly. Like, you have a journeyman. Well, you got villagers, so you don't need to find a village with it. You have grooms. You could just play them to gain a state to draw on, like cantrip them. Not sure how many coppers schadd has left. Probably most of them. So maybe a hand of 5 coppers, but quite unlikely. So, where's the win? So first off, what about the tie line? I guess considering that first. Groom gains 2 lurkers. You play the... Let's see if you can draw all that. Yeah, I think you can draw all that just fine. Groom gains 2 lurkers. You draw the lurkers. You now have 6 lurkers in hand. You empty the journeyman and lurker. You play the courier. You buy province. The tie seems pretty easy, I would think. The question is, can you eke out 1 extra gain there? I think the tricky part is, even if you manage to get in a Woodworkers Guild or something, like if you brokered a horse somehow for favors instead of draw, that would get you 1 extra action gain. But then, how do you convert that into 1 more point to get a win? The only way to get victory points here is going to be off of Groom. And playing Groom to gain a state rather than Lurker is really like -2 gains rather than -1, because you're not getting a Lurker, which is then not trashing an additional thing. So, Hakha's getting a remake. In theory, at least, this could do it, because you spend 1 Groom gain on a remake, and then that remake can gain you a duchy and also an action card. So, for example, remaking 2 4s into duchy and journeyman. But that seems super... it's asking a lot of your deck, right? You have to have the draw to be able to draw the remake and trash all the stuff. And also, you've got to have targets for the remake, right? If you trash the courier, for example, it's not as clear to me how you're getting to 8 to buy a province. Because, yeah, to my eyes, you've got 7 coppers and a courier in your deck. And if you trash something that's not the courier, well, the only cards that you need to gain here appear to be 2 costs and 5 costs, and remake can't gain 2 costs. So it feels like you've got to be planning to remake the courier and the broker. Now, if you just had like super unlimited draw, you could remake the horse into another remake, maybe, and then, I don't know, Groom for another maybe that leads to some pilot somehow. The tie looked like 100% to me. It does feel like if we're passing up on the clear tie line, it should be with a more determinate win in mind than like I'll gain a remake and see what happens. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We got cold feet. Should have started with a horse. I don't follow. So they are playing one groom after the shuffle trigger. I think it makes more sense probably to play one groom before the shuffle trigger because you're putting the horse into the shuffle. I think it should all work out just fine either way. Like, you don't actually need the broker at all for this. So you could broker a horse instead of playing the horse for just one extra draw. This once again seems like a strange time to pause. Like, it looks like we're pretty committed to the tie line now. In which case, the only thing you can gain here that makes any sense is a lurker. Flipping the other lurker, I suppose, is a little bit sad, but it doesn't matter. We're going to draw everything. Yeah, I feel like Schadd misplayed that last turn a little bit. Seemed like a pretty comfortable position to be in if you don't lower the journeyman and trash your estate. Game 3. I think it's 2-0 for Hakha right now. So this sure looks like a good kingdom for gaining 4 costs. We got Silk Merchant, which is a really good card, and Bounty Hunter, which is a really good card, and Throne Room, which is a really good card, and Weaver can gain all those. So presumably you take Weaver. I'm actually not seeing a very good way to trigger Weaver's effect. I mean, your opponent's Jester could discard it and trigger it for you, but aside from that, the only other way would be to exile a Weaver with Bounty Hunter and then gain a new Weaver, because discarding stuff from the exile mat counts as a discard. And so, you like, if you wanted 3 money, for example, and didn't have a better Bounty Hunter target, you could Bounty Hunt the Weaver and then still play it. Oh yeah, Poverty. There's at least 1, maybe 2 hexes that would trigger the Weaver if your opponent was playing with Tormentor. Anyways, point being, Weaver's basically, I think, just Workshop here, but Workshop is really good here because all the 4s are really good. What's the thinning? Just Bounty Hunter? Okay, yeah, that seems sufficient. They're already playing. What have they done? Wait, let me guess what they're going to have done. I would open, I think, Bounty Hunter Silver. Silk Merchant and Weaver both seem pretty reasonable too. Hakha goes with Silk Merchant. Hakha... Oh, if you have the 4-3, I guess Silk Merchant Bounty Hunter makes some sense. Because you don't really need the silver all that badly. And then Schadd went with Bounty Hunter. Yeah, makes sense. They both had a nice turn 3. Finding Bounty Hunter on 3 by Denizen. I think that works out better for Hakha's draw than for Shadd's, because with a Silk Merchant, that Denizen means Hakha gets to trigger a shuffle turn 4. And now your Bounty Hunter's already back in the shuffle, which is nice. But I mean, Shadd's works out fine too. I think I like the Highwayman more than the Lab. I mean, their decks do have slightly different compositions. Hakha already has a terminal, so there's some argument for the lab. hakha3 just hates all workshops. I don't think it's anything personal. Too bad there's no way to gain gold in this kingdom, because it'd be worth 3 victory points each. You're going to exile your coppers rather than trashing them, so you're still going to have the coppers technically in your deck. And then silvers are kind of trivial to obtain with Weaver around, so you just need the gold for palace points. Yeah, you just need your opponent to get a gold somehow, and then you can gain it off of Jester. That doesn't sound right at all. I'm not sure we're getting that information. Who's in the lead? I'm going to say Hakha's in the lead. Already has a Weaver and a Throne Room. Seem like good cards to have. Oh, that's a tragic draw. I didn't notice. Oh, man. I jinxed him. I'm sorry, Hakha. Hakha just drew 2 of the strongest cards in his deck and left a bottom deck that's got a lonely Throne Room. Yeah, that Silk Merchant play might have swung things around. Whoopsie. So for schadd, I presume we're taking a Weaver here. Do we ever do exile Weaver, discard things? That's a lot of words in that set. I feel like at least 1 or 2 of those words doesn't belong. I can see that coming up. I wouldn't say the goal of this kingdom is exile Weavers with Bounty Hunter and then gain the Weavers. Because, like, unlike other Weaver discard synergies like Dungeon or something, like, you're not getting a whole lot out of that. You're getting, now my Bounty Hunter as a non-terminal gold, that's okay. I guess it's more like a village gold, really. Like there's something there, but it's not like that's going to be the difference maker in this kingdom. So I wouldn't go into the kingdom planning to do that, but like I could see it coming up. It's like I need 3 money right now, and I don't have another bounty hunter target that I want to exile. Then yeah, Weaver is a pretty reasonable target. So probably it happens at some point. I like the thing that Highwayman does. It's kind of tricky. So in theory, Highwayman discards itself immediately at the start of your turn, which means unlike most duration cards, you don't need to have 2 copies of it to get the effective return. You could get that Highwayman back into your deck, draw it back around, and play it. But it's guaranteeing that it always bottom decks itself, which means playing it every turn is not trivial. You either got to find a way to play around that, like Courier, or make sure you're reliably drawing. Because if you don't get it into your deck, then you don't set your Highwayman up in your next turn's shot. Or maybe you play it safe and you just take like 2 Highwaymen and play them on alternating turns. Does seem like you want a lot of throne rooms here. Like here, I would just take 2 of them. Yep, that makes sense. Because it's the only sustainable village. You get 1 villager off of Silk Merchant, but there's no good way to trash your Silk Merchant unless your opponent hexes you. So, like, that's not a long-term source of villages. There's Landing Party, but Landing Party is going to be a one-shot village because there's a few ways that you can trick Landing Party and get it into play while still having a real turn, but none of them are in this kingdom. you need something that lets you play a treasure before you play all your actions, like Crown, for example, or Prepare, or I just saw Reap recently. Reap landing party is kind of a thing. But usually you're not playing treasures early, which means if you want to get your landing parties back, you got to accept a full turn. So, landing party's out, which leaves Throne Room as the only village. But Throne Room happens to be a great village because you can use the Throne Rooms on the Throne Rooms, and then you get this like cascading effect of lots of villages. Why does everyone in landing party have different colored shirts? Yeah, that is really tacky. They should try matching better. I would never be caught stranded on a desert island with that level of poor fashion sense. I like the landing party art. It looks nice. Someone got a jester. So I think patient might be making a big difference here because you do have something of a limited village situation. And so like I really wouldn't want to be committing to playing a jester every turn when I got Weaver that I want to play, or a Highwayman or Silk Merchant. But with patient you can play the jester non-terminally at the end of your turn at the cost of making it basically a duration card. So like I don't know the jester's actually important, but like it makes it less bad. I probably wouldn't click it here, but you can get lucky. Like your jester is probably gaining you a random 4 cost, but you know it gains you a non-random 4 cost and costs less? I don't actually, but there's probably a card that does that. Why did he spend a village to play jester? That's a good question. I mean, it's not strictly worse in that you get the jester back into your deck and can play it again. But I would have thought the whole point of the jester is to play it non-terminally, because otherwise, again, it's just like Weaver that it's like random Weaver. You get a random thing. The only argument jester has in its favor over Weaver is that you can set it aside and play it at the end. That was odd. Also, you can trigger your opponent's Weavers, and that's no good. Is there anything in this discard pile right now? Just a Throne Room, I think. Oh, the Highwayman's down there, isn't it? Because the Highwayman got flipped on Hakha's turn. I think you gain the Silk Merchant here. Oh, never mind. I thought that was the end of the... I was trying to figure out how you get this Highwayman into play. I didn't realize we had an unresolved Throne Room coming in. And I was going to say, well, gain a Silk Merchant, and then you can play a Silk Merchant and play the Highwayman. This makes it a lot easier to decide. Throne Room on Highwayman is a little bit sad because Highwayman only discards itself. Throne Room stays in play when it plays a duration card to track the fact that you played it an extra time. And the rule for cards that play duration cards extra times is stays in play until the cleanup of the turn that the duration card goes away, which usually means you're cleaning up like your Barge or your Wharf at the same time as the Throne Room. But in this case, the Highwayman goes back into your deck immediately and you can use it again. But then the poor Throne Room is just stranded all on its own. I mean, you still do it because, you know, it's better than not having an extra 3 cards to draw. I wrote those rules. DZ. That was me. So we're throwing the bounty hunter here, surely, because you need a village effect. This might be a good chance to exile the Weaver. Throne bounty hunter, exile Weaver, exile. Not sure whether you get rid of the. Well, no. That's not clear. I was gonna say you exile the Weaver and then you could buy one back and still activate it. But like, why are you exiling the Weaver? What are you doing with the rest of your turn at that point? I guess it lets you get another bounty hunter play, maybe. Yeah, I still think you probably exile the Weaver. It's unclear. Something like Throne Bounty Hunter, exile Weaver, copper, play Silk Merchant, exile another copper, play your Highwayman, buy a Weaver, and gain yourself Silk Merchant, maybe? Could be a landing party, actually. I know that duration cards used to work differently, but that was before my time. So I don't know what the old duration card rules were. At some point in ye old distant past, the interaction between duration cards and throne rooms was different somehow, and it changed. What was the old rule? Throne duration, both thrones stay out. So like anytime you play any card that stays out extra times. Intriguing. I think it didn't say you may. Throne room? Oh yeah. I know that again. Like I have never seen the first edition of Base Dominion ever. But I know that among the other changes where they like got rid of the bad cards and made better cards, one of the changes was a lot of things that weren't optional became optional. Like Moneylender, for example, used to make you trash a copper. Now it lets you trash a copper, which doesn't make a difference because if you play Moneylender, you're trashing a copper like 99.8% of the time. But like technically it's better that way because like what if hypothetically I played a Moneylender and I didn't want to trash a copper, but I did have a copper in my hand, and I'm like, no opponent, I don't have any coppers, and then I lied. They would have no way of verifying that, and then I could cheat. So if you had you may, well then, if I say I don't want to trash a copper, and then you're not cheating anymore, and so it adds a level of what's what I'm looking for. It doesn't add reliability so much. Like it makes the need to be truthful unnecessary. There are very rare cases. Like I know at least once or twice I've had a kingdom with Magic Lamp where you want to play the Moneylender, but you also want to play the one copper in your hand, so you can have 6 cards in play and activate the Magic Lamp. So you want to play the Moneylender and like voluntarily forego copper trashing. That can happen. Those cases are exceedingly rare in practice. Estate is a big green card. At the very least, it is equivalently big to all the other green cards in its physical size. If you think about it, Golden's Kingdom is like 1.5 farms. There's a lot of effects that I had forgotten were technically optional because of all the autoplay features that I was reminded are not optional because the TGG client's autoplay is kind of wonky at times and doesn't work. Like Desperation. If you click Desperation, you are technically allowed to just buy it for no reason and not gain a curse and not get the 2 money. Which, like, obviously you never want to do, ever. But if you click Desperation, you it prompts you, like, do you want to gain a curse? And the answer, and if you're not paying attention, you're like, why would I want to gain a curse? And you decline it, and you're like, oh wait, I bought that for nothing. You turn all the autoplays off. That sounds so stressful. I don't think I could play Dominion like that. So many additional prompts. Like every time you play a Settlers, you've got to manually grab the cop out of the discard. That'd be like playing Dominion in person. Yeah, and you'd have to like physically interact with other people. It's like tantamount to doing that. Oh, I've got a fun in-person Dominion story. I for the first time actually acquired a copy of Dominion, like the physical thing, very recently because it was on sale on Amazon. The big box with like Dominion base and Intrigue, and I was opening it up, and I opened this one pack of like the mini packs of cards, and I was like rifling through it, and I was just like, oh my god, there's like all the cards just mixed together randomly. And I have to sort through every one of these like 1,000 cards and put them into piles of 10. And so I suck it up and I start creating piles, like spread out all across the table of like every individual card as I'm going through this first pack. And then I open up the next pack and they're all in order, like 10 of one copy of a card, 10 of another copy of a card, how I expect it to be. And the next pack, it's all in order, 10 of one card and another card. And so they're fitting really nicely in the piles all of a sudden. And then I realized the first pack I had opened up was the randomizers. And I laid them all out, and I'd never seen a randomizer card before. I've never had any need for a randomizer card. Because I was like, oh, these cards are like weirdly sorted. And the thing that made me not question it was like it was technically marked as like not new. And that's, I think it was like damaged and sent back or something. It's like, oh, maybe they like repackaged it or something. And that's why the cards are all mixed up. I went through a lot of effort to sort all the randomizer cards just to put them all back in a pile. The other thing I didn't realize, and this was a consequence of the randomizer thing, was the cards were also in order alphabetically, which worked nice because there was like a little alphabetical thing that came inside of it. And yeah, the card backs are different, which I realized much later. But all the cards were alphabetically ordered, and there's like this little insert that's alphabetically ordered. I didn't realize any of that, so I'm sorting all the cards by like cost and stuff. So I've like thoroughly unalphabetized them, and then I start putting them into the box and just like my own makeshift numbering system. And then I realized like, isn't there something that should go in here? Yeah, sure enough, it's like hidden in the rule book. I'm like, oh my god, they're alphabetical, and I had to like unorder them and reorder them. It was a disaster. That's funny. I have no idea what's happening in this game. A landing party has been gained. The tricky question is, you naturally would love to throne the landing party, but if you use throne room in the landing party, your throne room gets stuck out indefinitely. So you can't do that. That is true. You could just do it and then resign. Uh-oh, what is this? An estate pile out? I'm not sure if I was supposed to know that was coming or not. But schadd is evening it up, almost. It's now 2-1 Hakha's favor. I appreciate that schadd is still technically in the voice call. The initial plan was going to be schadd was going to have himself deafened so he couldn't hear, but he could talk, and he was going to commentate while everyone else was commentating, just like over him. But then his microphone didn't want to work. Was there a tie? Oh, you're right. It is 1.5 each. In my mind, Hakha causing that pile up was a win, but in fact it was merely a tie. Nice and even. So it really was evening it up. Game 4. Okay, so you got, what do you got here? You got a workshop and you got a gardens, but that deck, I think, makes Mapmaker look really good. Thinning. Easy to get rid of coppers between Bonfire and Miser. Does not appear possible to trash anything else. So Siren could be good. How do you get a Siren? There's Trail. You could trash a Trail, but not really trash it. You could... I think that's the only tricky way to get a Siren here, isn't it? I believe so. No, what if you're at the end of your deck and you had like 2 Falconers, and one Falconer gains the Siren, activating the other Falconer, which gains the Trail, which plays itself and triggers a shuffle, and now your Siren's lost in the shuffle. You can gain a free Siren that way too. Falconer gains... Forget the first Falconer. It was actually an Inventor. The Inventor gains a Siren to your discard, and then that activates your singular Falconer, which triggers a shuffle. That's what... The Inventor is a part-time Falconer. I think that should be clear. Anyways, opening-wise, Silver does not inspire me here. I would think either Inventor and Bonfire, or Inventor and buy a random cheap card to turn into a Siren. What did they do? Oh, schadd wants Silver. Okay, then. Ah, yes, the Miser Gardens combo. In which I don't think it's really a combo at all. Like, you technically have the copper set aside, so they count gardens. But in every other way, those things kind of anti-synergize pretty badly. Miser doesn't gain things, it's terminal and gets in the way of other stuff like Inventor. It rewards you for having turns where you just buy one really expensive thing like Province, so Miser isn't really good at getting gardens. It's not helping you gain additional coppers. Ooh, things are happening. What is happening? Schadd hits 5. See, this is why you get a Silver, because it helps you hit 5 on turn 3 like Schadd did. Hakha gains a Trail turn 3. Interesting. Why gain a Trail there? I mean, Trail's not a bad card just to have in your deck. Again, it's a good target for Siren. Seems alright. Hakha does get the immediate Siren lineup. That's nice. Can never have too much Bonfire. Yeah, Bonfire seems good to me. Mapmaker. So Mapmaker does have some nice synergy here with Trail. You play the Mapmaker, you look at 4 cards, you put cards that are not Trail into your hand, and then you discard the Trails, and then you get to play them for free anyway, which is nice. It's like 1 extra draw, or 2 if you see 2 Trails, and it also makes the Mapmaker non-terminal. I don't understand the logic behind not trashing the Siren if you gain it to your hand. You would trash it if you gain it to your hand. The scenario I was trying to describe earlier was you gain the Siren and you trigger a shuffle to cause the Siren to lose itself in the shuffle. So like you gain a Siren, and then because it's a multi-type card, you activate your Falconer. And then because you activated your Falconer, you gain a Trail. Because you gained a Trail, you play the Trail. And all these things are resolving while you're gaining the Siren. Now your Trail triggers a shuffle, and your Siren is mixed somewhere in that shuffle. So now you go to trash your Siren, and whoops, it's gone. Yeah, the underlying rule here is the stop moving rule, or formerly known as the lose track rule, which basically says like if your card is lost, if it's moved somewhere else, then you can't do stuff with it anymore. So like if you're supposed to go trash a Siren, and then at some point in the interim the Siren got shuffled into your deck, you don't get to go look through your deck and trash the Siren. It's gone for good. Siren is just like the peak rules lawyer card because it rewards knowing ridiculously finicky card interactions. What happened? Did we do the thing? Hakha buys a Siren, trashes a Trail. No, this isn't the thing. I mean, like, technically, yes, and the Siren got lost, but, like, they already trashed the Trail, so, like, they weren't going to have to trash the Siren anyway because they paid the cost of trashing Trail. I mean, this is the more practical way in this kingdom to get the Siren, is you just trash Trail, which gains itself back. This is one of those kingdoms where like I want my opponent to just play big money or something so I could build a real deck. But I feel like if we're both clicking these cards, it's going to end on a pretty quick 3 pile. Trail will empty, curses will be really low, inventor will get really low, Mapmaker could get low. I mean, Mapmaker's a really good card here. I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess they probably had other stuff they needed to gain, like Trails and or Sirens, or more short-term priorities. Who's bonfired so far? Both of them have trashed 2 coppers. And both of them have 2 curses. I wouldn't expect that number of misers to change. I'm open to being proven wrong. For context, game 1 they also had Miser in the Kingdom with a Fountain, and they still didn't get Miser. If Fountain doesn't do it, Gardens is not going to do it. So the biggest thing for Mapmaker here is Trails. If your Mapmaker reveals any Trails, it just gets way, way better. It's like a Mapmaker flipping a Trail goes from like 2-card terminal action like a moat to like a non-terminal Smithy, which is a pretty big upgrade. You revealed 2 Trails in those 4 cards. Now you're drawing 4 and getting a village effect, which is great. So that's the biggest short-term synergy. And then, of course, if you start greening, Mapmaker is just like always non-terminal when you're greening, and that's a great interaction. The last thing I guess is worth adding for Mapmaker is you can trigger it yourself. So like let's say you had a Mapmaker and an Inventor in your hand. You could play the Inventor, gain a Gardens, trigger your Mapmaker. You don't reveal any Trails immediately. You could pick up another Mapmaker, trigger that off of the same Gardens gain, and then keep drawing until you find a Trail and continue your turn. Oh, here we go. So we pick up the things that aren't trails. Then we play the trails. Now you drew all 4 of those cards, basically. And now you've got 3 actions. Still didn't get the actions. Oh. Snowy Village. And now we're entering the map maker phase of the game. If you gained a noble, like let's say you played 2 inventors already, and you inventor gained a nobles, then your map makers could draw a falconer, which could activate itself off of the nobles gain, which could gain an additional map maker, which could also react to the nobles gain and then continue onward. And that would be a fun interaction. I guess that would also work on your opponent's turn. Like if they bought a nobles for some reason, then you could trigger your map makers, draw your falconers, gain additional map makers, and continue to draw on. Alright, we've trashed lots of coppers. I wonder what the trail split is looking like. Looks like it's 6-4 Hakha's favor, and trails seem kind of important here. Something hurt here. What hurt? Ooh. Yeah, that does look like a pretty tragic draw. Like you don't want to play the trails. The goal of trail is not to have it in your hand and just play it as a cantrip. The goal of trail is to be in your deck and be triggered with the map makers. There's no particularly good way to trigger trail from your hand here. What you could technically do is let's say you were just wanting to play the inventor just for cost reduction and not for gaining something. Let's say your hand was inventor trail. You could gain a siren, just voluntarily use the siren to trash the trail, just to trigger the trail. Then you get the 1 action back, and then you can play your second inventor and gain a 5 cost that you really wanted. Yeah, it sure seemed like Hakha was ahead a second ago when I counted up the number of trails in the deck. But this is pretty bad in a lot of ways. They don't get to do a whole lot out of this turn. They don't get their siren down. They just get to be sad. If I had 5 as Hakha, I would buy Road Network here, just because this next turn could potentially be a doozy, and you might expect your opponent to gain some victory cards. But you don't have 5, so Bonfire 2 more coppers maybe? Or buy another map maker? I'm going to say map maker is probably better than 2 more coppers. Sorry, 2 fewer coppers, I guess. I guess, would I banquet for a map maker there? If you're passing up on a bonfire to buy a map maker, that's basically the choice between banqueting for a map maker and doing nothing. Yeah, I feel like banqueting map maker is probably better than nothing. Probably. That seems right. Alright, we played the Snowy Village, so we're not doing a whole lot more with this turn. Play Siren, play Inventor. What do you gain here? What else in the discard, I guess, is a relevant question. They discarded nothing off of this map maker. Do they play a map maker on their opponent's turn? Where is that silver coming from? Oh, I guess this is a more simple way to answer the question. Here's the list of all the discard cards. They looked at an estate, an inventor, 2 trails, a siren, a snowy village, a crit, and a silver. So there's a estate down there, inventor. Oh, they triggered. Did they trigger the shuffle? Oh, they didn't have a siren in play. So estate, inventor. This doesn't look super worth triggering. Well, maybe. If you play a map maker, looks like there's another trail down there. Or no, that's both of the trails, right? I can't tell. I see that they played 2 trails, and I see that at some point they had 2 trails in their discard. I'm not sure if that's both the trails, or if there's a 3rd trail down there. So Hakha did come perilously close to having another dead turn, but mapmaker flipping trail at least gives you 1 action left to get the siren down. It doesn't look great that the other siren is in the discard. Yeah, what are the odds here? So Hakha could have played the mapmaker to continue the turn, and then hope to find a trail. You got 13 cards, and I believe there's 2 trails down there. So what are the odds that none of your top 4 cards have a trail in them? That's going to be like 11 factorial over 7 factorial divided by 13 over 9 factorial. Someone do that math. I don't know what the odds were. Nine over 13 times 8 over 12. Is that right? I thought it... This is not my area of expertise. I don't do numbers. I thought it should be like 11 times 10 times 9 times 8 over 13 times 12 times 11 times 10. And then 1 minus that, right? Or is that the same thing and just simplified somehow that I'm not recognizing? Yeah, maybe I am. Maybe that is just a simpler way to do what I'm trying to accomplish. Oh, I see. You're. Yeah, I follow. That does look like the thing I was describing. You canceled some of the numbers that I hadn't. I think. So what is that number? If one were to plug that in. So better than 50% odds to have something good happen. The downside is if you whiff, you don't get to play your siren, which is a pretty big downside. I feel like the odds have to be decently better than 50% to want to take that risk. Or maybe you just say, if you're behind, then you take the gamble. All right. 2.5 for Schadd. 1.5 for Hakha. What have we here? You got Apothecary, which synergizes with Treasure Trove and Magnate and Mystic. Apothecary looks... Oh, and Herald. Apothecary looks pretty good to me. There's also University for gaining actions. Den of Sin... I think Magnate looks not bad here. Den of Sin gives you a larger starting hand, so you're more likely to find some coppers. Where are the gains? I guess that's a big question. And suddenly I'm rethinking this whole kingdom. So University can gain you all the action cards you want, but none of the action cards are worth points. And there's no plus buy, and there's no way to gain additional victory cards. So your options for scoring are kind of limited. Fortunately, there is Museum, which pushes you to do at least a little bit of stuff. Like if you subtracted Museum, I think this would just look like a super simplistic big money kingdom, because there would just be no benefit to building more than that. I'm not even sure what that money deck would look like. Probably like some pages into some heroes and treasure troves, and maybe you take a champion if your opponent has skirmishers for some reason, but otherwise probably just stay at hero and then buy provinces. Fortunately, there's University, which I think encourages you to do a little bit. You buy a potion, you buy a University. Now you can gain an assortment of these cards for extra victory points, 2 each, without spending gains on them. And so that's kind of nice. I'd want at least one University here, and then to pick up like 1 copy of each of these, plus like theoretically up to like 5 copies a page, because you can turn them into different levels of the line. But yeah, the lack of gains still makes this a fairly uninteresting kingdom. You're, for the most part, I think, just going to be buying provinces pretty early, but with a University now. So what do they do? I would think Page Potion seems correct. Page Potion it is. Schadd goes for Apothecary first. That might be right. It's not clear. Steph really likes Apothecary first. So, like, normally I think if you showed me both of those 2 cards, I would click University first. Because if you're getting the University, it's to gain the cards, and you want to put the good cards in your deck. But in this kingdom, the University is kind of like points more than anything, because you're just using to gain, like, distinct cards from Museum. And so maybe you take the Apothecary to cycle through your deck and play the Page. On the flip side, getting to champion here doesn't seem like as important as it often is. That's not a thing I don't think you're like really rushing to do. Is a bunch of skirmishers really what this deck needs? I'm not sure that I'm convinced of that. Schadd has 3 money. What do you buy with 3 money? My first instinct says just another page. You could ferry something, but ferry is not doing a whole lot without plus buy. You could consider Guardian as well. Guardian would not be ridiculous. It's a card you can't get off University. Ooh. We have Trash to Treasure Hunter. Was that the most advanced card in Shadd's deck? I think that was. Or was it? Yep. There's 2 warriors out of the pile. They're both here in Hakha's deck. Well, that's a bit sad. It was Hakha's cards that got trashed. Wait, what happened? Did I misread this? Oh, that was Shadd's turn. I think I was confused by whose turn. I saw a warrior in play and a warrior in Hakha's hand, and I concluded that Hakha must have both warriors on the grounds that it must have been Hakha's turn. I don't know why I thought that it was Hakha's turn, but I did. Okay, well, never mind. So that's not good, but it's not such a big deal if you got a warrior anyway. So play order-wise, presumably you top deck Page, then Apothecary, then Silver, so that you can play all three of those, and your Apothecary sees as many unique cards as possible. Oh, they don't have any more cantrips left. Like I said, it doesn't really matter what you put them back in. Magnate? Magnate. Potion. I think I would like the second potion a lot if they were plus buy. Because, I mean, Apothecary looks great here. University looks pretty good, too. Wouldn't mind buying potions. But you gotta think that, like... Is that not... Oh, was one of them trashed? It's not really a second potion. So you... Yeah, rebuying a potion, I guess, makes some sense in that case. Like, you're going to get a treasure off of Hero, but you probably want that to be Treasure Trove, I would think. Ideally, you'd get multiple heroes. I think you take hero here. Sorry, you take champion here as Schadd. You got at least one terminal draw card in your deck with the Magnate, so it does something for you. And your opponent has a bunch of skirmishers, and it blocks those. I think if those weren't true, I would seriously think about just keeping the hero for another shuffle. Five and a potion. We decide on Den of Sin. Yeah, that seems to make sense. If you have a Magnet coming up, drawing two cards, it's not just two cards, it's also your Magnet hopefully seeing more cards and lining up with a village. Probably just Province here. Normally it's not good etiquette to green the first time you hit 8, but in a kingdom with no buys and minimal other ways to score, it makes a lot more sense. More Magnate. At least we get to see Magnates. Not a card that sees the largest amount of play. Oh shoot, I should think about making dinner soon. Well, it sounds like you're thinking about it already, so you've got that covered. That's the first step in digestion, they say. So really, you've already eaten dinner when you think about it. Is this a league match? It is. This is the A-League. A being the first letter of the alphabet. These are the people who are like just starting out. And so you're going to see them struggling real hard. But we're rooting for them to do their best. Yeah. That's a pretty big jump. You go from first being the worst to second being the best. I just jumped right past all the other leagues that are intermediary. And not only am I in the second league, which is the best league, I think twice come in second league, so I'm like the best of the best. Draw province, reveal silver. Draw province, reveal silver. Oh, to intentionally top deck the Magnate. Probably. That sounds right. The other line you could consider, I think, could be gaining some pages, which actually I think is what they ended up doing. And then you get to advance them early, which also has its merits. Lets you get to some of the higher hero line, like hero and warrior, that you might otherwise not get to, at the risk of having a weaker next turn. I think I like Hakha's line better. They have 2 Dins anyway, and so I think the added reliability of having a magnet on top wasn't super crucial. Although I'm looking at this hand, and maybe they did want a magnet on top after all. Oh, this looks disastrous for schadd. That is not the scenario, I think, where you want to be buying duchy. Like, if you were in Hakha's shoes on the previous turn with 4 provinces left and you miss province, that's not a big deal. You buy a duchy. And now your opponent's kind of got the tempo of they buy province, you buy province. But, like, that's not huge. If provinces are at 3 and you miss province, that's a really big deal because now your opponent gets both the 4th and the 3rd province. Yeah, a magnate and a herald, perhaps? Oh, you can put some silvers on top, too. What is the best set of... 2 magnates could risk a dud, couldn't it? Like, if you draw magnates and victory cards, for example, or universities, you could be sad. Oh, with the silvers, yeah. Yep, looks like Hakha is doing exactly that. And yeah, you got to play this treasure trove once at some point because the first gold's worth 2 points. I would expect they don't play the treasure trove again unless they absolutely need to hit 8. An additional gold in the deck, I think, is slightly worse than nothing. Like, you maybe are increasing your chances of hitting 8 ever so slightly, but you're also increasing your chances of dudding. And where, like, a dud is you hit 8 but don't draw your deck. And your deck does a little bit more than just buy a province per turn, because your university can gain you a mystic for 2 points or a page, and you can advance pages you already have. And so there's a little bit of value in drawing your deck every turn beyond just getting a province. And so I would not gain more than the minimum number of golds required. Yep. Oh, God, didn't seem to be in the driver's seat. Thank you for asking. I'm drinking V8 juice. It is 100% vegetable juice from concentrate with added ingredients. The original plant-powered drink. 2.5 servings of vegetables in 1 can. It's gluten-free, in case you were wondering about that for some reason. Distributed by Campbell Soup Company. The main ingredients are concentrated juice of tomatoes, carrots, celery, beets, parsley, lettuce, watercress, spinach, salt, natural flavoring, vitamin C, ascorbic acid, beta-carotene, citric acid, and that is all. Oh, there's a new kingdom. What's going on here? Well, this one's... I see a bunch of powerful cards that line up kind of awkwardly. Your best trashing here is like Sewers plus Tragic Hero, where you play the Tragic Hero and it pops itself, and then you need to trash a junk card, and you're not even like net thinning your deck because you're still adding a treasure to it. There's also Flames Gift off of Fool, which is more non-negligible with Sewers around because you can trash 2 things. That's something. Silvermine looks terrible. You start your deck with an involuntary Silvermine. I mean, you have to build. Like you put some liveries in play, and with collections also in play, and you buy like anything, and all of a sudden you just have 1,000,000 points. So you do that, I presume. But it's going to be awkward because the only villages cost 6 and is terrible at being a village. So it's going to take a hot second for things to get rolling with bad trashing, weak village. Draw here is great. Hunting party is great draw. Livery is eventually great draw. Tradakira's ite. Nomad looks pretty terrible, I would think. Silvermine looks absolutely abysmal. I don't think even enough deck control use killing productively. Anyways, what did they do? Fool, silver versus pirate, nothing. Pirate. How do I feel about pirate? I don't like the pirate very much. My first instinct is to open livery, probably. Hunting party would also be alright because it probably finds you your silver and then you hit 5. I think livery is a good way to get into the other 5s. Pirate, I think, is a little bit too focused on pumping your deck full of treasures early than is necessary. I mean, it's not terrible. I don't like it. Schadd, do you have sewers yet? Oh, how irresponsible. You're trashing a single card when you could be trashing multiple cards. Are you even trashing a single card? I'm not even sure if you trash there. Because the 5s are just so infinitely better than the things that aren't 5. What does Hakha buy here? I don't know. I'm going to say nobles. Hunting party is reasonable. I think Liberty would have also been reasonable. I'm going to try to be alright. You don't really want to play the the lucky coin because silvers are actively really bad in this deck, but hitting 5 is so important that I think playing it here makes sense anyway. Is Sewer's Tragic Hero a real thing? Yes, in the sense that it seems like a good interaction here that you want to do because you need trashing and Tragic Hero seems alright. I wouldn't say it's like a super strong combo or anything. It's more of like a situation of desperation here. Surprised to see both people getting sewers with 0 trashing. Well, Schadd has a Fool, and in fact didn't get sewers early enough because they got the Flames Gift before seeing... they got Flames Gift before they had sewers. Hakha maybe just likes sewers. When did Hakha get it? Well, so something important to consider, I suppose, that might justify Hakha taking sewers really early is that everything that doesn't cost 5 is absolutely terrible. So, like, if you're going to buy nothing anyway, then you might as well buy sewers on a non-5 turn. I'm sorry that I distinguished my consonants too clearly. Sewers. I'm trying to make those two things sound similar, and I don't think it just doesn't work in my accent. I've never watched How to Base Dominion. Oh, that's his the series where he plays only base. I watched that back when I was getting started. I watched Burning Skull play a bunch of base only games, and then I learned how to base Dominion, and then I played Burning Skull in the base only tournament, and we split 2-2. So that series made me exactly as good at Burning Skull at base Dominion. I've also watched Jay Nails' videos in building engines, and I mean, I don't want to brag, but I feel like I am also as good as he is. The only numbers that seem to matter here very much are like 5, 6, and 10. Like here you have 7. You could buy a Nomad totally free because like you buy it before you're 5, you get $2 back, and you can still buy a 5, and you get a free point. But it's like Nomads and all the things that aren't 5 are just like so bad that you wouldn't even take victory points to put them in your deck. It's because I haven't watched the videos recently. I need to go back and brush up, and then I would probably improve. Once isn't really enough. Like you have to sit down and watch those things on repeat and thoroughly internalize them, and then you'll be a true Dominion master. Just like play them in the background while you're sleeping. Like make a playlist and just loop it. That's a good idea you have, DZ. I like the way you think. Should you be building... Oh my god! I appreciate that comment existed. I had not been thinking about delay this entire game. Delay is a village, isn't it? Oh yeah, noble. Forget nobles. Nobles is stupid. We don't want nobles anymore. Yeah, I was thinking you build the big collection livery thing when I thought that nobles was the only village, just because it's like 1,000,000 victory points. So delay turns plus buy cards and basically into villages. At the expense of like you don't get the plus buy if you use the plus buy to set stuff aside, but like you could take your collections, set aside additional horses or hunting party or something, and use them. Wow, yeah, that's a pretty crucial oversight. What would be in DZ's videos? I recently saw there's a YouTube channel of a guy who just records himself just like sitting silently in an empty room for like 4 hours straight. And that's like the whole thing. His whole channel is just like tons of videos, like 4 hours long each, of him just sitting silently in a room. And I feel like that could be something DZ would do. When I release my videos, everyone will lose 10 rating points. Because it's just a bunch of videos of you going around beating everyone on ladder, I presume. So piles are getting pretty low. Collection's empty. Tragic Hero is low. Gains a gold. Oh, right, because collection is empty. That makes sense. Never mind. Yeah, I guess Tragic Hero gets a lot less good once collection is empty, because like you're turning your junk into just more expensive junk. But it can potentially come with horses if you play liveries first. Given that we're still in the situation of not having like full deck control, I would be thinking about trying to have spikier turns. Like if you've got, I want to say there's a situation just a second ago in this hand of shadds where like you could consider having not much of a turn to set aside all your actions for a bigger turn next turn, because collection is going to scale. What's the word? Geometrically, whatever the word is for how big it scales, bigly. And like 2 okay turns are going to score less than like 1 really big collection turn, and also it's a bigger pile out threat. So what was the situation here? Shadd's hand was Fool, Tragic Hero, Will-O-Wisp. Yeah, so something like maybe you play the Tragic Hero there and you just delay Will-O-Wisp and Hunting Party, and then like you just did nothing that turn, but you're gonna have a bigger next turn. Something like that I would consider. Well, Hakha's had his pirate for a very long time. I don't know when Shad got his. Turn 4, so also very long. The pirates, like at this point in the game, the pirates look really bad. They gain gold at a really awkward time because you can't trigger your liveries off it unless you delayed your liveries. So I'm not even sure you play the pirate if you can. But maybe they made sense at the time because, you know, counterfactually, maybe you don't get the pirate early and then you lose the collection split really bad, and then that could suck. Lower the piles. I don't care which one. Just buy 2 of, I think, either livery or tragic hero. You're going to have a big points lead, and you're basically telling your opponent, like, score a million points immediately or you lose. I'm going to say 2 liveries here. Like, that's the card I would ever so slightly prefer to see in my starting hand. Hakha's got my back. But I don't want to have 2 more turns. I want to have 1 more turn. Alright, this is a difficult spot to win, but I think Hakha might be able to notice it. Alrighty, the final score is... oh, thank you for clarifying, because I had no idea. It is 2.5, 3.5 in, I presume, Shadd's favor? Someone has 3.5. Anyways, that's the match.